if you could give advice to growing as a shooter specifically to hoopers, what advice would you give them?
Early, when I really started going to the gym a lot, I was always focused on just a lot of reps, a lot of reps, shooting 1,000 shots a day or whatever. I think later in my career, I really just started focusing on just like game shots, like game rhythm. Obviously, good mechanics. You want to have good mechanics when you're obviously a shooter. Like I said, I think that's what kind of helped me progress later on in my career. So.
It all speaks for itself. Grinding in silence, ain't nothing to tell. When we step on the court, we gon' bring it to light. And we stop and pop like we caught it a light. Stop asking what's wrong with me. You already know there's a dog in me. If there's no stopping my focus, man, make sure all my people gon' ball with me. Yeah, I came to compete, I'm a dog with it. Yeah, I came to compete with my paws in it.
CTA family, welcome back to another episode of the Compete Mentality Podcast. The Compete Mentality Podcast exists to motivate, educate, and inspire you guys to compete. My whole purpose in this podcast is to spread the light, spread some positivity, and inspire each and every one of you guys. And we have an exceptional guest today, my brother, Tyreke Key. Reek, thanks for joining us today, man.
Appreciate you having me.
All the way from Belgium, Tyreke. I could go on and on to introduce this young man. Tennessee Mr. Basketball, averaged 37 points a game as a senior, had a great standout career at Indiana State, one of the best the league's ever seen, then plays a graduate year for the Tennessee, his home state, Volunteers. And I can't wait to dive into this story. Now he's in his rookie season over in Belgium. Reek trained at the barn here this past summer, and many times driving 2.5 hours for a workout, which we'll dive into that, and just the commitment that just tells you the type of blue collar mentality that he has. But I can't wait to uncover this story and give it to you guys. But without further ado, Reek, I want to start off with a question a little lighter for you here, man. We're big foodies here at CTA, and as much as we like taking care of our mind, body, spirit, I want to hear your go-to spot in Belgium, and what are you getting to eat, man?
My go-to spot in Belgium, it's going to sound crazy, but there's a place called Florida Food Bar. And they have what they call pita breads. They get stuff on with like chicken, and of course you can get different things in them, but I get the chicken one, and it's got like some sriracha sauce and all these different things mixed in with it. And they got the best wings that I've ever had in my entire life. So that's kind of my go-to spot here. I've been there several times. But I say all the food in Belgium, it's really good. So.
Man, I love that, man. I'm getting hungry even thinking about it. Our guy, we got a mutual brother in Brent Tonsoni. Brent Tonsoni was the manager for the Sycamores while you were there. And I love Coach Brent. Brent went to my high school, my alma mater, Rossville High School. And I'll never forget Brent calling me one day, and he was like, yo, JD, I really want to introduce you to a guy that I think you would absolutely love training. He's got the same mentality as you. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, man. I didn't know who he was talking about. He's like, I want to hook you up with my guy, Tyreke Key. I'm like, yeah, I know who Tyreke Key is, man. I'd love to work with Tyreke. And, man, just have been a huge, even before we started training, huge fan of your career, what you've done, the mentality you approach the game. And I kind of want to go down a trip down memory lane with you. And I want to take you back to your childhood a little bit here. We talk about all the time at Compete Training Academy, just the childlike faith you got to have to like dream big. And I just want you to tell me, like, when you first started dreaming big as a kid, where were you? How'd you start dreaming big? Was there someone highly involved in your life that helped you fall in love with the game of basketball?
Well, obviously, I come from a very small town in Salina, Tennessee. Like I said, you don't really ever hear of anybody really, playing professional sports or really going to play, big time college hoops or anything like that. And like I said, when I was got old enough to,
How big is Salina, Tennessee? How many people?
I mean, there ain't a stoplight in it, so that tells you that tells you how many people there is.
All of you, Compete Training Academy Nation, you're loving this story right here as we are just north of Sweetser, Indiana. So pulling the heartstrings.
But when got old enough to really start watching college basketball, I was watching, of course, being from the South, watching the SEC and those big time college basketball games. I remember I would just go outside and try to mimic it on the basketball goal my mom had bought me for Easter. And I would just try to do a bunch of shots that I'd seen on TV and buzzer beaters, just stuff that a kid would do. And then when I finally got a little bit older, I played baseball as well. So I kind of thought that I was going to give one of them up. Mm-hmm. And I just really, really liked basketball. I always had a basketball with me.
Who did you pretend that you were in the driveway when you were playing? Who were you in your mind?
I was a big time John Wall. I loved watching John Wall.
Yes, sir.
So that was the guy I really loved watching. Him and Terrence Williams from Louisville.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, them two. I remember watching them when I was growing up. I just loved their game. And like I said, just really fell in love with college basketball at a young age. And like I said, and once I got older to high school, I kind of started really focusing on trying to get to that level. Working hard, and I finally figured out what working hard was. And like I said, it's kind of everything fell in place for me. I met my AU coach, Kevin Feltner, and my high school coach, Rob Edwards. Really helped me get hooked up with him. And like I said, the rest is kind of history. And I landed at Indiana State. So.
Yeah, and Reek, I want to dive into your recruiting process. So, like you said, small town, Salina, Tennessee. Is it in the mountains?
Yeah, we're in the mountains a little bit. Yeah,
that's what I thought. And really, like you said, never hear of anyone making it big in college sports or anything. Talk about your recruiting process. As I mentioned, Mr. Basketball, 37 points a game. How did your recruiting process go? Were you recruited early? When did it start? And how ultimately did you end up at Indiana State?
Yeah, well, so when I really didn't really start playing AAU until about probably sophomore year, but that was just with a couple local team, and I got hooked up with my AAU coach. I think going into my senior year that summer, and that's kind of when I got started getting recruited a little bit just by mid majors. But I had my very first Division I offer as a freshman, just at Tennessee Tech, just right up the road, like 30 minutes. But I knew that was one place I didn't want to go, just because I wanted to be out of my comfort zone. Because I know a lot of people back home kind of go to Tennessee Tech, and I knew where all my friends was going to go, and I love them to death. But I knew I wanted to, go on and get out of my comfort zone a little bit, just because a lot of people don't really do that back home. So then, that's when the recruiting started happening a little bit going into my senior year. And like I said, we played in the Adidas Invitational in Indianapolis, and that's when Indiana State had offered me, and just like I said, just a bunch of mid majors. And that's kind of how the recruiting went. And like I said, I went on a visit there, and like I said, I liked it. I felt at home. I met this woman named Vicky Weger. She was a journalist for NBC, and like I said, she kind of became my second mom there. And like I said, I still talk to her pretty much every day, and she checks in with me. But that's kind of how the recruiting process went. As far as that goes, like I said, really didn't start getting recruited until senior year of high school.
I love to hear that, Reek. And now you're doing what every boy and girl in the driveway dreams of, playing playing for a paycheck and playing the game you love and getting paid to do it. Reek, I want to dive into your graduate year as you got to go home and play for the Volunteers. That had to be a dream come true. And just tell me about how that actually happened.
Yeah, so the reason that happened, well, of course, I set out my last year at Indiana State, had shoulder surgery. So I set that whole year out, and I knew I had 1 year left. And I just kind of felt like I had done what I needed to do at Indiana State. I played all 4 years there. Like I just kind of wanted something new, something fresh. Like I said, and that's when I kind of hit the portal. And like I said, I knew it was going to come down between Texas Tech and Tennessee, and it kind of made sense just to go back home. Like I said, it was obviously I thought it was the best decision for myself to go back home, and obviously because I'd been so far enough from obviously home and my parents. So like I said, I thought it was just the best decision to go back home, and like I said, it was very, very fun playing in front of obviously the balls, and so like I said, I had a good time. So
I love to hear it, Reek, and that kind of transitions to when we met last summer. As I mentioned, with our boy Brent Tonsoni, which he was your manager at Indiana State. Brent would tell me stories about you hitting him up after games, and anytime, day or night, and he was your guy to get in the gym with and rebound for you and everything. Kind of tell me about your relationship with Brent and like when you would hit him up, how often you'd hit him up, and just describe just the level of commitment to your craft outside of practice and games that you had.
yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, Brent, he's one of a kind when it comes to working hard and being in the gym. I think we really started getting close right after my freshman year, going into my sophomore year. I would message him all the time to come in, rebound for me. And every time he always said yes. He never said no. He never canceled on me or anything. I always said yeah. And that point in my career, that's when I really started going to the gym, really started working hard. Christian Smith, I always say he was what jump started my career. He's a coach at Miami, Ohio now, and I always say him and Brent and the managers that we had at the time always kind of jump started my career. That's when I really started going to the gym. It was twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. So we always just worked on what I thought they really needed to improve on. And at that time, it was shooting, a lot of shooting, and moving without the ball and stuff like that. And I said, I always rely on Brent to be there to rebound. I remember this is one story I have, but he invited me to IU game. I think it was versus Michigan State football game. It was on a Saturday, and we had the day off. And I was like, I want to get shots up that day. And I was like, only way I'll go if you come rebound at 4 a.m. before we leave to go, because his dad has like a whole little setup tailgate at the IU football game. And so he's like, all right. He said, I will. So we got up that morning and went to the gym at 4 a.m. and we worked out. And like I said, we hit the road right after and then went to IU and watch him play Michigan State that day. So
I love that.
That shows you how dedicated he is.
Yes, it shows how dedicated he is. It shows how dedicated you are to your craft as well. And I want to shout out to any of the college basketball managers right now. I had the great opportunity to be a manager for Matt Painter after I was done playing at Purdue University Northwest. I had a year of school left. And just that unique experience that you have to be able to have a relationship with the coaching staff and then the players, just like you had with Brent, is memories and relationship for a lifetime. And I just want to shout out college basketball managers there. Tyreke, I won't forget a workout. I want to dive into our offseason a little bit here. I won't forget a workout that we had in Indianapolis, I believe with Taylor Persons and Evan Maxwell. We were there in a house gym, and I remember you were there. I showed up early. You were there 45 minutes early. And so you and I were just kind of getting some extra work in before the workout even started. And we were working on a couple different catch and shoot things, one dribble, off one dribble, but it was all 3-point work that we were in at this point in time. And there's different spots. You're hitting 10 in a row, 12 in a row, 15 in a row. And I'm like, dang, this dude is a high level shooter. Tell me if you could give advice to growing as a shooter specifically to hoopers, what would you give them? What advice would you give them?
Well, I think for me, early when I really started going to the gym a lot, I was always focused on just a lot of reps, and a lot of reps, and a lot of reps. Shooting 1,000 shots a day or whatever. I think later in my career, I really just started focusing on just like game shots, like game rhythm. I think that's what really changed towards the end of my career. Instead of working out for say an hour and 15, you get a good solid 45, 30 minutes of just hard work and just hard game shots that you're going to shoot in a game. And like I said, in game rhythm. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think there is times where you can get a lot of shots up and see the ball go into the net. But I think for me, what I always focused on later was always just game shots and game rhythm, game reps. Obviously, good mechanics. You want to have good mechanics when you're obviously a shooter. Like I said, I think that's what kind of helped me progress later on in my career. So.
Absolutely. I absolutely love you touched on that because I preach that all the time. I do think, especially as you're building your foundation of your shot, especially as even younger in high school, where you got to get those reps up, but especially when you're in college and a pro and you've really mastered your shot and you're just kind of fine tuning. I've mentioned before on this podcast, one of my favorite articles was from Kyle Korver, where he said that literally every day he shot between as low as 50 shots to as high as 500. And it was all based off of feel, how he felt, how his strap felt, and I just thought that was a lot of wisdom right there, especially the older you get and you kind of got those mechanics down. Now it's just fine tuning and adding little tweaks to your game that are going to make you elite.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, your body is what makes you go. So you kind of gotta do as your body can. Because like early in my career, before I really hurt my shoulder, I would always just make sure I was reps, and that's what really kind of had to eventually mess my shoulder up because I was just overworking it. And I thought I had to see 400 makes a day to feel comfortable out there, when really it was just a mental game. And that's one thing I understood towards the end of my college career.
That's wisdom. That's maturity. There's false reps that you can have. And it's really out of I was there. I did it as a player in college where it's almost an insecurity of like, I got to do this to be confident instead of just knowing and believing in the work that you've done over years. And really, as you said, we always say at Compete Training Academy, feel good, play good. If your body feels worn out, feels worn down, and you're not doing yourself any good, these are just kind of false reps. So
yeah,
I love that advice that you give. Reek, I mentioned that many times, workouts, you're driving 2.5 hours to workouts. You're the first one there. You're the last to leave. Like this blue collar mentality that you bring to the game. Where did that come from? How was it developed?
I think it really just came from my mom. Like I said, it was just me, my mom, my sister growing up. And, my mom always worked hard. I always seen her working hard, sometimes 2 jobs, just to make sure me and my sister had what we wanted. I think that's really what drove me to pursue basketball. And like I said, I've always had that, kind of, like you said, blue collar mentality. Like I said, one of my biggest pet peeves is being late. So it's one thing I absolutely can't stand is being late. So that's one thing I also took a lot of pride in, especially in college, was always being there, 30, 45 minutes early. Even if it was just to a walk around, shoot around, because you never know what can happen. Get stuck in traffic or whatever. Anything can happen. In Terre Haute, it was always trains, so you always had to count on it getting stuck by a train. So I was one reason I always left early. But I think it really just comes down to seeing my mom and how hard she worked to make sure we had what we had. Like I said, I think that's what just really drove me to always want to work as hard as she did. And like I said, my biggest goal for myself one day is to take care of her. So, like I said, that's why, like I said, I work as hard as I can. So
That's amazing. I love your heart there. Love the example your mom was. Reek, now over in Belgium, as now you're living the dream. Yes, you're living the dream, but I've been training NBA overseas players for now 13 years, and not everybody knows the grind and the things that you go through on a daily and weekly basis. So just we got a lot of players listening to this podcast, young hoopers that are aspiring to have a career like yours, play overseas, be a professional. Just kind of give them a week in the life of what you're living now overseas, what practice looks like, what workouts looks like, living situation, how you travel, kind of all that.
well, I think it varies from different places, but here in Belgium, what my week looks like, we'll have Mondays, we'll have 9 o'clock weights, and then shooting right after that, from like 10:30 or to 11 to 12, and then I'll have like a 3 hour break, 4 hour break, and then we'll go to practice, and then practice like an hour and a half, and then that after practice when I get my shots up and do what I need to, or recovery, whatever. Then I come home and we have dinner and we repeat the next day, and then unfortunately sometimes the week you only have one game, so you have a long week of practice. And practice, training, shooting, your vitamins, whatever, and then you play on a Saturday or Sunday, and then repeat that over again, and then you do the same schedule. So it's really just you really got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable to live this lifestyle, really. But like I said, if you do it in college, you can do it here. But like I said, it also helps because I have my girlfriend here. But so.
Yes.
That's kind of how it is, the schedule. So
absolutely. Kind of paint a picture of where your squad is at right now in terms of the season in the league and where you guys are going as a team.
Yeah, so we just got rid of 2 guys, brought 2 new guys in. I forget where we're ranked at in the league, but we just lost. We lost yesterday, so tough loss. But so we're on the come up. Like I said, we're still trying to get everything gelled together, heading into the second round of the season. So yeah, like I said, that it's just a grind. Every day is a grind, and we're just trying to figure it out. Like I said, get everything gelled together. So
I love that, Reek. Reek, I always ask this question on every podcast. Adversity, man, it can be life's greatest teacher. It's coming. Like it's coming in life. That's just life. Give us a time in your basketball career, a story where you went through some adversity, and now hindsight's always 20/20. You can look back and be like, man, I am actually grateful for this adversity I went through because it made me to the player and the man I was supposed to become.
Well, I think last year was the year I really kind of hit a wall, or as you could say. Like I said, I come off a year of sitting out of college basketball, and like I said, sidelined all year, not being able to play, and then I jump into one of the best teams in the country. And like I said, I don't know what it was, but I always had a sense of being uncomfortable out there, and I never could figure out why. I always got in my head about it. And like I said, there would be some games I'd feel good, and some games I just felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't feel like I was a basketball player at times. And I remember just at the end of the year, I was so just drained of basketball. And like I said, I took like 2 months, didn't even touch a ball or anything. Like I said, I think that whole year really was the biggest adversity that I'd faced as a player. Like I said, it was hard. I mean, there was long nights, especially being a scorer and a shooter. And, when you don't, when a shooter loses his confidence, it's like the worst thing ever. And there was times where I just felt like, they didn't know where I was. And like I said, I think that's the most self-doubt I've had as a player, as a basketball player, that ever since I've been playing since I was a kid. And I think that was the biggest challenge for me, was just trying to figure out how to navigate that. Obviously, once the year was over, like I said, that's when I took that time off, 2 months off after the season. Like I said, I didn't touch a basketball. I didn't look at a basketball. Didn't want to look at a basketball. I was riding my bike every day. I was going on bike rides and just trying to find, that love again, that passion again. And obviously it came, and then that's when Brent got me hooked up with you. And like I said, I'm grateful for that opportunity, because that's when I really started. I was like, I knew I loved basketball, but then once I took that time off, I didn't realize how much I loved it. And from that aspect, like I said, I'm grateful for meeting you and Brent getting us hooked up. So,
Man, well, I appreciate the kind words, but just being in the gym with kindred spirit like yourself, just with the blue collar mentality that we both approach life with, and iron sharpens iron. And so I'm not sure who left the gym better, me or you, each time we were together, for sure, just by being around your energy, being around your positivity, being around your hard work. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, that's where I really want to encourage you. Reek's one of a kind in that area. You got to surround yourself with positive, hardworking people like Reek. You have to. There's two types of people. There's energy givers and there's energy takers. When I'm around Reek, he gives me energy. I know I'm training him and coaching him, but like when I leave, I'm fired up. I'd go train, 10 more sessions after training a guy like him. That's who you need to surround yourself with. If you are around people all the time that are constantly draining your energy, you got to get rid of them. You got to get rid of them, because they ain't going where you're going. So, Reek, kind of as we wrap up this podcast, truly, I want to share a story. You talked about, you just even mentioned about it as a shooter. Sometimes you're in the zone, and like just that almost like flow state where the rim looks huge. You had a game like that for the Tennessee Volunteers. I believe you had 28 or 30. I remember watching that. Tell us about like how you, as a shooter, like take me back to that game specifically, and like when you knew it was on.
well, I think as a shooter, there's some shots that you don't think is going to go in, but they go in. And I can't remember what shot it, but I done like a turnaround, kind of fading away from the basket or something. And I mean, it was nothing but net. And as a shooter, when you hit shots like that, obviously your confidence just keeps going a little bit higher, a little bit higher. And yeah, so once I hit one of those shots, I feel like I'm locked in, feel like I'm, can get going a little bit. And I think I can't remember what game it was, but I know what you're talking about. But of course, once you see a shot like that goes in, the rim just keeps expanding a little bit more and more and more. And I say, you just keep flame throwing them up and they go in. So, but yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is I really learned that, you never really lose your shooting. You're always going to be able to shoot the ball as a shooter, and you just gotta just believe in it, let it go, and like I said, don't ever let nobody tell you no otherwise. So
I was a shooter myself. One of my favorite things to do is really study shooting. One of my favorite quotes was from one of the greatest shooters of all time, JJ Redick, where he's like, I'm going to butcher it, but it's basically that you're never too far away from being on fire or cold, like as a shooter. Like you're just not that far away. So you just got to stay controlling what you can control with your routine, getting shots up, getting your body right, getting your mind right. All that stuff adds up because you're never that far away from popping off. You're never that far away from, it's the grind that you got to work on staying confident. Reek, I'm pretty passionate right now about helping players recover their bodies and minds, especially. Well, we talk about all the time in our mindset training that, there's the mind, the body, and the spirit. And when one is off, they're all off. What are you doing right now as a pro overseas to take care of your body, like recovery? What are you doing after practice, before practice, anything like that you could give advice to? And then what do you do on a daily basis for your mental health?
Well, I think the one should always do is make sure they stretch. I think that's the biggest one that you always should do. And personally, I make sure I stretch twice a day. And that's always before and after practice or after a practice session. And I'm a big believer in the sauna. I really like the sauna as recovery. And also we have ice bath too. So I do that as well, or cold plunge, whatever you might have, or whatever somebody might have. I'm big believers in those things. Also, I think, I really believe in the weight room as recovery as well, and doing those type of things. Just get moving, make sure the body's moving and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I think it really just comes down to personal preference. But I think as a basketball player, you always want to make sure that you're recovering right and doing the right things, and hydrating, and just making sure you're putting the right things in your body to have success. So
I love that advice. Reek, it's been an absolute honor to chop it up with you here on the pod. I can't wait to go back and get my own notepad out, take notes, glean from your wisdom, and apply it to my daily training with the youngins and hoopers all alike. And there's just so much to take away from your story, fighting through adversity, dreaming big, small town kid from Salina, Tennessee. And that's what I really wanted to bring him on and encourage all you guys listening today to dream big, never give up. Yeah, kind of like Reek and I were just talking about, you're never that far away from popping off. You're never that far away from being down in the dumps, but all the time, just keep competing every day. Wake up, compete, rinse, repeat. And Reek, I just really can't wait for you to follow the rest of your season and your success. And also when you get back, I'm ready to get back in the barn and grind it out for another great offseason.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely get it in this summer. I'm excited for it. So
CTA family, thanks for joining us today. Always remember that competing is doing what God calls you to do, even when it's hard.